title of this work is Handsome Fighters Never Lose, and it comes from a popular game that I played as a kid growing up. It was an arcade game, and it was one of the statements made by a character in the game whenever you um, defeated him. So, to break down this work, um, aesthetically it looks quite different from the other works, and there is a reason for that. Um, this piece really started off more with an abstract background, where I was playing around with different colors, and then I started placing different characters that I've painted out um, in the original painting and kept certain bits of them in. So, for example, this head belonged to a different character at first, and then I replaced it. But we'll start off on the upper left hand side of the painting where it says Trojan horse. And Trojan horse refers to the Trojan horse massacres, which is an incident that happened in a suburb called Athlone in Cape Town. And this happened in 1985, where children were killed by the police, the apartheid police of the times. So I think it was around about the 15th of October 1985. Um, Members of the police forces shot and killed three young people who were taking part in an anti-government demonstration. On that, on the day of the incident, um, the security um, and the railway police worked together to crush a gathering of these youth who were protesting against the apartheid government. And the incident became known as the Trojan Horse Massacre. Um, a truck, basically, a big, massive truck, was loaded up with crates, and all the edges around the back and the middle um, unloaded all the crates to make a space for the police to hide in the middle of these crates on the truck. And then the truck drove down a road which is called Thornton Road within Athlone, um, all the way to the middle of the protest. And it then stopped, and armed police that were hidden in the crates, they jumped out, and they basically opened fire on the youth, and they killed three young people. I think they were aged between 15 to, well, actually, I think between 11 to 21 years old. Um, so that is what Trojan Horse here stands for. It references that incident that happened. Um, if we move over to the characters themselves, the characters represent a situation that happened for me when I was growing up. And in Cape Town, we had these corner stores, which was sort of independent stores that were not part of big commercial chains, and they often had arcade games in there where you sort of throw a coin in them and you could play the game. And this was prior to any kind of sort of Xbox or home consoles that people can now use in the comfort of their home. And what would happen is, if you look at this over here, this is 20 cents. We used to call it a tubop, and you'd use this coin basically to play the game. So you throw 20 cents into the game and you could start playing. And very often, what would happen is you would have older kids who would prey on younger kids and take their money and not allow them to play the game. And so this brings up an incident for me where this character over here is actually a bully. And he's sort of, this is a sort of a self-portrait of me where he's trying to take my money to play the game. And this over here is, I suppose, is my options. If I zoom in on it, this is a joystick controller, and this is kind of like my response of what I could really do. This talks about my senses, and this talks about I could punch, jump, and kick, which is also controls used in the game itself of different actions that your characters could do. And so you're faced with this sort of play of power from a young age already. Is it fight? Is it fight or flight? What are you going to do? Are you going to freeze? Are you going to give in? Are you going to fight back? And I think we experience this at quite a young age. And so you've got the versus sign here as well, me versus the bully. Um, Over here is the word high score, and this is also very often found on arcade games. The person who makes the highest score of the game. It's a very a strong sign for me because I remember this growing up as a kid. If you couldn't play the game, it would run in this demo mode, and you'd always see the words high score. And at the bottom of high score, you would actually have different abbreviations of players who had played the game prior and who had their high score written here. So this is sort of a nostalgic piece for me and a bit of a personal piece as well regarding this specific characters. Um, then moving down, we see over here different hand signs, and this once again references the uh, the prison gangs in in South Africa, which is the 26s, 27s, and 28s, and they use these as hand salutes basically when greeting other gang members. Move across over here, we see a image of a rooster, and this rooster is actually my aunt's rooster. I think his name was Peter when I was growing up, and I put him in there because I'd been looking at some previous documentation, and on there was a crest, and in the crest was a rooster, and it made me think of my aunt's rooster growing up. So I placed him into the painting, um, and then I've got some words running around him, which is pretty much just a play on words. We've got here free range. I was thinking about free range eggs, free range chicken, and then I swap it for freedom, and then I swap it for free doom, which is a play on freedom. And I often do this in some of my other works as well, where I swap around words or I morph words from one word um, to create a new word out of it. Um, Over here, once again, we have, sorry, on this side over here, we've got Sacharo, Blanco, El Rey. Sacharo being sugar, Blanco meaning white, and El Rey means the king. And these words actually, both this words over here in the square, um, ace times 3, um, and Mercury threads all refer to another painting. And they are sort of embedded links that I've placed in here. I'll give a little bit of information on the 3 aces. 3 aces here sort of refers to the tarot reading cards, which I also found as a source material online. Um, and what this means in tarot reading cards is 3 aces usually means fulfilling desire, which ties into the theme of gold and paradise, I suppose, into those two themes, fulfilling desire or the need for desire. These numbers here, 7, 13, and the letter A, is once again linking to another body of work. And then finally scrolling up towards the top over here, we have the words aka Europe, which is also known as Europe. And so this comes out of a book which is called The Rape of Africa, which was written by an author called Lamar Middleton. And what we're looking at really here is different countries, which is France, Britain, Egypt, Germany, Belgium, Portugal, Turkey, Italy, Spain. And this is a list that appears in the second half of the book. And what it's really showing is the amount of land that was dedicated to each of these countries that colonized Africa. And so we see an independent, this is I think it's per square mile. So what we see at the end here is the total of, for independent Africa, which is 613,000 square miles versus this number over here, which is way, way higher. And so I just found that quite interesting when going through this book, that at one point the amount of land that had been colonized was bigger than the amount of land on the continent that was still um, independent and separate. So I would encourage you to maybe go online and look up Lamar Middleton. He's got another book out, if I'm not mistaken, which has something to do with the US as well. But this is quite an interesting read. It's quite a lot of information in there. And so that is Handsome Fighters Never Lose. Thank you for checking out this work.